As I sit and sort of collect my thoughts in this video and convey what I need to emphasize one thing, and that is that I'm predominantly skeptical of cryptozoology. I made this channel to discuss certain events in the cryptid community that interest me, but it doesn't mean I believe in certain creatures or events corresponding with said anomalous happenings. That said, I wanted my first video on here to be personal because I've had an encounter with something I've never seen before, nor have I seen ever again. To give a brief reference without completely doxing myself, this is the general area in which I lived in at the time of this occurrence. There's not necessarily a vast amount of wildlife in the Chicagoland area. The year was 2000 or 2001. I had to have been at least 5 or 6 years old. My cousin, who was the same age as me, were in the front of her house lifting up big rocks to look for roly-polies. We would always collect them and put them in buckets, kids being kids. Now, after we had lifted up all of the big rocks in the front of her house, we saw that the last place to check for the bugs was under the splash block. And if you don't know what that is, it's essentially what you put underneath the gutter so that it guides the rainwater. Usually people have plastic ones, but nope, not my aunt and uncle. They had a very heavy concrete one. The gutter was a bit higher up, so what they did was they took a brick and placed it underneath the splash block so that it would be on an incline. It was heavy as fuck, so my cousin and I each grabbed it and managed to move it down maybe about 5 inches away from where the gutter made contact with the splash block, and it was still on an incline because of the brick. And at that point, we noticed something horrific sort of slither out from underneath the splash block. It was orange, had red eyes, had tentacles folding in and out, and had a visible head looking directly at us. It was maybe about the size of a Post-it note or a coaster on a coffee table. Maybe a bit bigger. But here's a little doodle that I made, and I'm no artist. But I think this does a good job at putting in your head what I remember seeing. Just absolutely bizarre. So my cousin, she's screaming, and I look back at her, and instead of telling our parents who were in the backyard, my immediate action was to run to the side of the house and grab a rock and throw it to try to kill it. I vividly remember the rock landing right next to the thing, and it slowly slithered back down underneath the splash block. And that's where that core memory ends. I don't recall another event that happened that day. I find myself recollecting the past quite a bit, and if I had the ability to relive one moment through the eyes of my current self, it would be that. Being a skeptic, I would have chalked it up to my mind playing games, or it was an existing animal that I had never seen before. I was a kid after all. But my cousin saw it too. I've searched high and low to what this thing could have been. A snake? A group of worms? Someone's pet octopus that escaped? But for the longest time, my best guess was that we saw that day was a rodent called the star-nosed mole. Doing a bit of research, I noticed that they can live in the general area. They have a nose similar to the thing that I remember, and they like to live in moist areas. The issue with this idea is that this thing was completely stationary, other than the tentacles folding in and out. I didn't see any claws, which common sense would tell you it would be on its back looking up at us. And I've never seen a star-nosed mole in my life. Granted, they spend a majority of their life underground. I don't know why one would be chilling under a gutter rock, but anyway. This video was mostly an introductory attempt. I will be working on more that deep dive into cryptid lore that I find fascinating, or even some paranormal mysteries as well. I realize that there are a million channels with in-depth analysis on these sort of things, with way better production or better editing skills. But there's nothing wrong with having a little hobby talking about potential monsters. So, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I have a few more videos cooking, so thanks.